Hello one and all, Old School Gamer back with yet another opinion. Before I begin, a special shout out to Millie and Lloyd. Also, if you like what you hear, like, subscribe or comment, or do all three. Will certainly make my day. Today is a bit of a bumper issue because I've got like a couple of reviews rather than just one or talking about the game I'm playing. So without further ado, our first topic today is DLC, microtransactions and loot boxes. So I'll start by saying that all three aren't necessarily a bad thing. Companies need to be more upfront about what DLC, microtransactions and loot boxes will be in their game before release. So before we consider the purchase or the purchase of DLC, or even down to before we actually pre-order, if they told us what we was actually buying, then maybe people wouldn't be so angry about it. Had I myself bought the South Park Broken Butthole DLC. However, whilst I like it, fact is it has no trophies. Had I have known that, I probably would have waited till it was on a sale. Likewise, I have waited for Battlefront 2, knowing all the problems and hassles it has had. I decided it was probably better for me not to buy that, as I do not normally play the multiplayer aspect. So it's a single player. Single player is not that long, and I don't think it's quite worth the amount that they've been asking for it. If companies were more upfront about loot boxes, then people could choose. I love DLC on the whole. It extends the life of a game. Mad Max is one of my favourite games. However, with DLC, it could have extended the life of the game. Whilst not short, I was not ready to say goodbye to that world. Well, a beautiful world that we could have got more from. I think companies just need to look and see what they're offering, and I don't think they always look at that, and I don't think sometimes they take into consideration that people want value for money, and to sit there and ask for a lot more money. I get the fact that games cost more to develop nowadays, but they should really consider value for money. Okay, on to my review of Lego Marvel 2. It was made by Traveller's Tales in 2017. I really liked the game, really. It was a big map, lots to do and collect. Cleverly modelled story to encompass many different eras and worlds. As you can see from the map, there is like, from the point of view, you've got like Asgard from Thor, you've got Egypt, you've got Xander, you've got the Old West, Hala, Manhattan Noir, Hydra. It's a good size map, and it's made quite a varied world because of it. My only real quibble is not all the previous game's characters are available. Punisher and Deadpool come straight to mind. I know we have Gwenpool, but not really the same thing. However, I highly recommend the game to fans of the original and to anybody that's looking for a bit of a challenge. It took a good amount of time, and not everything is on the map, even once you've got all of the pink bricks unlocked to get all of like the detectors up. So on the whole, a really good game. Okay, now my next one is a game I actually went back to. This is unusual for me. Normally if I leave a game alone, I won't go back to it, but this one I did. Was a game called Valiant: The Great War. It's it's a game that proves you can have a game about war without it being a first-person shooter nor a body count. It's a story of the effect on the lives of 4 characters. Emile, who's a Frenchman, Carl, who's a German, Fredette, who's an American, and Aronnaud, who's a Belgian. For once, you see a person on the German side that didn't necessarily agree with the war. It has a lot of info about the conditions and facts about the war in like information that you find, and it's an amazing story that draws you in and an unforgettable ending. It may be slow for some, but it was just about perfect for me. Right, pluses. It had an amazing story, surprisingly involving, and ending was really amazing. The healing hero trophy is a pain, and it's probably the only thing that detracts from the game. But well done, Ubisoft. It came out in 2014 and it is a really, really good game. I can't help but recommend it. I know I recommend a lot, but I normally play what I know I'm going to like to play. I don't have time to play absolutely everything and review stuff that I'd necessarily be negative about. So you will find that a lot of my reviews are very positive. Right, my top 10 this week is platform games. Now, I like platform games. They are good. They're not always necessarily everyone's cup of tea, and in years gone by they've been very child orientated, but not all of them are. And these are my top 10. As per normal, this will be in the necessary order, so but it possibly change on another day. Okay, at number 10, Chucky Egg was a platformer on the Amstrad CPC 464, and it came out in 1985. It was made by a company called A&F Software. Man, me and a friend called Julian Folkett tried to get through this game so many times. It was absolutely amazing. I can remember the bit where, because you start off with ostriches and you got eggs and you got bird feed, and if they eat the bird feed they go back in the opposite direction, but the bird feed gave you more points. So if you feel you could like dodge out the way of the ostriches, and then on the second time round you had a big duck that was in a cage at the top, and that would float down and try and get you. On the third set you had both, and that was normally about where we got to. But in 1985 it was a really good game. My number 9, Tomb Raider. It came out on the PlayStation 1 and the PlayStation 3. I'm not on about the remake, I'm on about the original. It came out in 1996 on the PS1 and 2009 on the PS3, and it was developed by Core Design Games. I remember the first time I got this game, I was at a video shop called Andy Kim's Movie Zone over in a place called Braunston, which is an area that was nearby where we lived. And he says, oh, I got these games, they should be $39.99, I've got them for $29.99. And I was umming and ahhing, I looked in my wallet, I had enough money, and I bought it, and I got it home, and it was outstanding. It had puzzles, it was jumping around, it was doing stuff, and this was in a time in 1996 where most platformers was child orientated, and this one wasn't, and it was brilliant. And I played it through from beginning to end. I never got round to doing that on the PlayStation 3, but I've still got a PlayStation 3, and at some point I will endeavour to play this through again from beginning to end. It is a really, really good game, and for those PlayStation 3 owners, or hopefully one day it will come out on the PlayStation 4, it's well worth a play. Okay, on to number 8. Sly Raccoon. Came out on the PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 3 and came out in 2002 on the PlayStation 2, 2010 on the PlayStation 3. It was developed by Sucker Punch for the PlayStation 2 and Santaru Games on the PlayStation 3. Okay, this was a platform game that done something a little bit different. It made it so that you had a bit of stealth elements in there, a few puzzles in there, a few little mini games, and the stealth element really added to it. And man, was it good. It was good from beginning to end, and I liked it. It was something that to me was what you needed. Okay, on to number 7. A game called Limbo came out on the PlayStation 3 in 2011, PlayStation 4 in 2015. Developed by Playdead Software. Oh man, I cannot speak highly enough really of this game. The first time I played it, Millie and Lloyd both enjoyed watching me play this game, and man was it good. It was a really good game. There has been many things said about the ending and the position of the two of them compared to the beginning, but man, it works, it plays, it does what it says on the tin. If only all games could be like this, where it got people talking. Okay, at number 4, the original Ratchet and Clank on the PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 3 came out in 2002 and 2012 respectively. It was developed by Insomniac Games. Man, I have loved these games for as long as I can remember. It's an absolute pity that there is not more of them, but I do think that they suffered eventually from maybe an oversaturation in the generation. But the original was so good. That chicken gun, I remember the advert where the guy stood there and he gets shot with a chicken gun and just becomes a chicken. Stupid as anything, but as good as you could like, really. It really was one of those really good games. When it got released, the graphics was a lot better, the textures was better, and all in all, it was a good game all over again. So, on to number 5. Super Metroid on the SNES, developed by Nintendo in 1994. I remember getting this game and just thinking, wow. It was what you wanted. It was a 2D platformer, loads of weapons to collect. It was what you wanted. I can remember getting it and being enthralled by the design of it, by the bosses on it. Everything was so good. Super Metroid is a really good game, and I know they done Axiom Verge for the PlayStation, which, whilst is a similar sort of game, it's not Metroid. And as much as, you know, Nintendo really, they haven't always looked after the franchise, but for its time in like 1994, this was a really good game. Number 4, The Prince of Persia: Sands of Time came out on the PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 3 in 2003 and 2010 respectively. And it was made by Ubisoft. This game, it was just everything you wanted from a game. Absolutely everything. The platform sections, rewind in time, everything. It looked the part, it sounded the part. The lighting, the graphics, everything was outstanding. The combat was good, and as you went through the game, it expanded and it got better and better and better. And even looking at it now, it still looks quite impressive, even though, even on the PlayStation 2 for 2003, it still looks a good game. On to number 3, Jet Set Willy 2, The Final Frontier. Okay, came out on Amstrad CPC, developed by Software Projects in 1985. Right, first things first, the original Jet Set Willy, it had problems. It was impossible to complete. There was a few glitches on it, and once it went into the die-in screen, bang, 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 your 3 lives are gone. There was no way for you to get out of it, because where it spawned the enemies, you couldn't do it. But Jet Set Willy 2, The Final Frontier, was possible. I remember the general story of it is you got drunk and Maria, your housekeeper, will not let you go to bed until you've went and collected all the empty bottles from your house party. I wish games nowadays could have just a simpler premise and just be about jumping and collecting, and it is really good because you're supposed to be drunk, so you see things that aren't quite the way they are, and it was fantastic. I like the original Manic Miner, but this was a whole new level, and certainly this booted up on my Amstrad. I think in the end I bought it twice. The first time, in the end, the tape just wore out, so I had to get it a second time, and I loved it. It was brilliant. Number 2, on the Mega Drive, PS3 and PS4, is Sonic the Hedgehog. Came out in 1991 for the Mega Drive, 2009 for the PS3, and 2018 on the PS4. Developed by Sega. This was why you bought a Mega Drive. It was not for anything else, really. And you might have bought other games once you owned it, but this was the game that was advertised that told you you needed a Mega Drive. And at that time, it was what you needed. And Sega made an outstanding machine. It's just a pity they had to make 1,000,001 add-ons and make some very bad business decisions that ultimately led to their demise. But this game, getting all 6 Chaos Gems, doing all the rest of it, it took time. And it weren't like you could do it on your first time, so therefore you'd sometimes not get all the Chaos Gems because you didn't get over 100 rings to get the big ring there to jump into to get to that point. Man, I can remember playing this game and it being just nigh on perfect as you can get. For the Mega Drive, certainly it was perfect, and for a for a platform game, it really, really was that good. Right, my number 1. In 1993, Nintendo released for their Super Nintendo Super Mario All-Stars. And to me, there has never been a finer collection of platform games, nor finer platform game in itself. It pulled together 3 of the very, very best that Nintendo had to offer. And the fact you also got the Lost Levels, which apparently was going to be Super Mario 2 until they decided to repackage the other game as Super Mario 2, was outstanding. All 4 on one cartridge. I ploughed hours into this, and with improved graphics for each of them, I think Nintendo gave more than value for money, and for me it is the very, very best platformer that there has ever been. Right, thanks for listening. Comment if you agree or disagree. Put your own list on there if you like. Tell me where I went wrong. Enjoy your day. Old School Gamer signing off. Bye Millie. Bye Lloyd.